Hey, how are you? Welcome back. And if you're new to the channel, hey, you look stunning. And just so you know, 9 out of 10 dentists recommend that you subscribe. Folks, I was clearing the trash out of my flat the other day, and you know what concept has just been rolling on my brain? Waste. The amount that the human race just throws away into the landfill, plastic, food, the fourth Jonas brother, the entire plotline to Shrek 3. So this week, you strange people whom I've never met, who are watching me on a faraway screen that I seek the validation of dearly, are going to watch me attempt the impossible. I'm going to turn my sad, overflowing pile of fabric scraps into actual clothing, to save the ozone, the planet, and my overdraft, because I actually don't have any money for a budget for this video, so I'm just kind of going to work with what I got. Will I succeed? Will I cry? Will I am? These are all very good questions. So grab a snack, grab your thread, maybe send me some emotional support in the comments, because I'm gonna turn my trash into, well, hopefully not more trash.
So I started out by organising a pile of trash into colour-coordinated trash to narrow down what I could use for this project. Like Marie Kondo, but instead of sparking joy, it sparks regret and stray bits of thread into my carpet.
So this is what we have so far. I'm thinking I can make the base of the dress with this accumulation of white and cream cotton, and then just kind of do some patchwork stuff with all of this other fabric, which kind of fits into the same color coordination category. The aesthetic that we're really kind of gonna try to make here is raccoon trash chic.
Next, it was time to start making the bodice. I used my measurements to draft a pattern, which, by the way, I've used a pattern similar to this for my previous video when I made armor for the medieval fair, and you should totally check that out after this video is finished. I put together the inner bodice first, just because then I'll know how much of this white fabric I'll have left to contribute to the skirt. And also, who cares? It's all going to be made at some point anyway, and time is a human construct, so if people never existed, this part of the video could have really happened after making the main dress. In fact, it wouldn't be made at all, because contrary to popular belief, I am a person. But what I do know as a fact is that parts of this project that are yet to come already happened. Is this too meta? I don't know, I'm not a physicsist man. Anyway, so I started piecing together and cutting the same pattern as the inner bodice with the scraps whilst putting them together like a jigsaw puzzle, except every piece was lying to me and I was forcing them together like a toxic relationship. I might have some issues I have to work out. So I sewed everything together and added some trimmings, because trimmings make everything look fancy, and I was going to put a trimming stroke here, but the one I came up with wasn't exactly cutting edge. Mostly because we're sewing, and trimmings are non-fabric materials and components added to garments for both decorative and totally functional purposes. See, there's a joke. Wait, that's more funny in the future when we make a purse. I mean, in the past. Finally, after pressing 2 strips of fabric in half, I sewed them together and attached them as straps to the top of the bodice.
Okay, so now we have to cut a bunch of panels for the skirt and then ruffle them. Legend has it that if you cut about 13, your dress becomes sentient, so I'm only going to do 6 just in case. I don't really have a plan much for what I'm doing with this skirt, if I'm honest with you. So I'm just kind of having to make some panels, ruffle everything, map it out on the floor, just because I don't think I can make much of a plan. I don't know how much fabric I really have of everything. It all makes sense up in here, trust me. I will have one rule though. Any kind of see-through material, like this kind of lace or this kind of chiffon silk sort of thing, gonna have to put that either at the bottom, or if I am making layers, that can just go in front of some sort of opaque material. Okay, so my plan was to put out all of the panels on the floor and ruffle them, map them out, and then sew them the next day, because I actually didn't have enough time to do everything before I started my shift. However, I have woken up incredibly ill today, so I won't be able to do much, meaning that the upload of this video is probably going to be delayed with all of the days I'm going to be taking off. But all of this is incredibly irrelevant to you because you're watching this in the future. Anyway, take this as a word of advice. People, stop glamorizing the grind and start glamorizing the Albus Oil teddy bear because he looks like he's having a hoot of a time. Roaring.
And just like that, she died. Just kidding, I was down for a few days, watched some Spielberg movies and drank a lot of fluids.
I'm back. I have returned. I'm not stronger, I'm not wiser, I'm just congested in new and exciting ways. You missed me. I know you did, even though you don't say it, but I like to think it's because you don't think you can say it. But you don't have to say it, but you can, if you want to. Please. So, we're back to business. I've got to finish off this old gal, put a skirt at the bottom of the dress, do the whole shebang, couple of details. Hopefully I'll be able to start and finish making a shirt today for my partner, which I will inevitably start borrowing as my own, so I might as well just make it as my own, but then where's the fun in that? Also, if there's any leftover fabric from this project, just know that I will be making something out of it because I will not rest until every inch of this stuff is used. I have set myself this challenge, and I will be my own worst enemy and my greatest coach. So let's get cracking, gang.
Once I planned out all the layers of the skirt and I was having them all ruffled and measured, then it was time to finally finish making this dress. All I had to do was just sew, hem, add a bit of trimming on the bottom, and bang, it's done. Now I have some leftover scraps. I can make a cute purse because when life gives you melons, you might be dyslexic. So first I made a new meter of fabric, sewing together the scraps and cut 2 hearts the same size as well as 2 same shaped hearts in the polyester scraps for the inner part of the bag. Then I measure a perimeter of the heart so I know how long the ruffles are going to be. Then I take some silk, cut out a long strip, fold it in half and ruffle and sew onto the edge of the patchwork heart. Then sew on the other side of the bag, sandwiching the ruffle edge in between and leaving a gap at the top for where the bag will open. Now we need to make the pocket. Sew 2 rectangular pieces of fabric together, turn them inside out so the stitching is on the inside, and sew the polyester heart, and make sure that you're making the pocket deep enough to hold essential items like your wallet, keys, emergency Wii nunchuck for when you have to defend yourself with your vast but definitely not limited boxing skills knowledge on the streets. Then after that you can cut out the bottom of the rectangle to fit your heart, and after that you can sandwich the pocket in between the 2 polyester hearts, but leave a gap right here because that's going to be very important later. Now to make the straps, cut 2 long rectangles of identical length, fold them in half and sew an 1/8 of an inch away from the end, making sure that the edges of the fabric are inside and everything is even. Finally we can sew the inner bag to the gap we left at the top where the opening is. Make sure it's sewn inside out because then when everything is sewn we could use that other gap we made before to turn everything outside in. Goes without saying that after that you just got to sew that little gap together, making sure that the edges of the fabric are going on the inside, and voila, everything's done. Now for the shirt. I know that I didn't have my boyfriend around to make measurements, so I had to take one of his shirts that I knew fit him perfectly and just use that as a draft pattern. Then once the patterns were drafted, I got started on cutting up the sections of the curtains that I had left. Cutting the pieces reminded me of when I picked these up from the collection spot at this real shady petrol station, because I actually got them on Vinted originally. Story time. So the day I got a confirmation text saying that the curtains were ready for collection, I went to pick it up and the guy looked for like 5 seconds and then gave up and said,
"Oh, I can't find it now. Come back tomorrow when I can have a better look."
So I gave him the benefit of the doubt because he might have too much on his plate, or maybe he was allergic to finding things. The next day it was miraculously there and looked like it had been clawed open by man hands, along with a couple of other packages, to which I said, what up with this? And he said,
The person probably didn't seal it right and it just popped open.
Now, thinking that from the outside this package looked like something that could be potentially expensive and wrapped in fabric or bubble wrap, but when opened the person might be disappointed to find that the object was only curtains, had no choice but to give it back to the recipient, we can only come to one conclusion. It was God telling me these curtains needed to be seen, and that's why I'm using the last inches to make this shirt. It's what he would have wanted, and probably for me to be a Christian, but I have multiple jobs right now, so I can only do one thing at a time. Okay, so when it came to the buttons, my boyfriend wanted wooden buttons and I thought gold, so I left you guys to decide instead, and you went with gold, which means I have to make my boyfriend test for COVID because apparently he has no taste. Then I asked which kind of gold button, and can you guess I wanted the vintage one, and I could choose, but I just wanted you guys to think that you were a part of the decision. But then only half of you were on the same wavelength as me, and half of you respond to reverse psychology, and 100% of you are fools for taking part in the first place, because I want the vintage gold and it's my channel. The last thing I had to do after sewing on the cuffs was to put on a cute little pocket and hem. Here's the end result, and here's a dramatic clip of me burning my finger on the light bulb when trying to adjust the pressure. Remember kids, being a YouTuber might look cool, but it's actually a really dangerous sport.
So, things I would do differently. So, if I had a bit more control, obviously I would do different colors than white or pale blue and stuff, just because it makes me feel a little bit... The combination with my skin color and hair color is not good. Everything just looks drowned out, everything looks unsaturated. I don't like it. It just really emphasizes the fact that my hair needs a touch up. Another thing I would do differently is use a little bit more of the scraps. I had some left over. I could have made some gloves. It's just the fact that I didn't want to make this video any later than it already was. I was ill. I don't want to delay this anymore. So yeah, I just ran out of time to make the gloves, but I will do that in a little bit maybe. Probably post some updates on Instagram. If you're new to the channel, my name has been Ellie Matisse. I upload every other Friday, apart from this time, but you know, whatever. This will be like a regular thing. I will upload every other Friday, don't worry. If you are new to the channel, please press the subscribe and like or comment. Really helps me a lot just because I'm just starting out here. And I would love you guys to help me push through the algorithm just a little bit. As always, keep warm and kind, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!